Hello everyone, welcome back once again to On the Couch with David and Travis.
This was episode 16 of book 1, The Deserter.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I liked it. I thought it all came together very nicely in the end. I think it was one of those episodes where not a lot happens to forward the overall plot, but I still enjoyed it, and I feel like, especially if it was like a once a week kind of thing, where I only saw it like if it was every Monday and this was a Monday episode, I would feel like this would be a very good, solid, filler episode.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a filler episode, because I think there's a number of sort of important plot points given out here. First of all, we're given more context for firebending, which is a big thing. Yeah. And it kind of answers the question that a lot of people might have had where, why can't Aang just do it?
Yeah.
And it sort of shows, it's dangerous, particularly with firebending, he has to take a little bit more time with it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there's consequences, and I'll talk about that later. But I also think there's the important plot point, which again, kind of comes out of nowhere. But Katara being able to heal with waterbending, which we learn is because I don't know if it's completely established here, but I know it's established in Korra, where there's different, classes of bender. Like, with earthbending, you have metal benders and lava benders, and then with water benders, one of them is the healers. So that's sort of an important plot point. Overall, though, I think it's kind of a hit and miss episode. I think there's good things, and I think there's some weaker aspects, particularly when it comes back. I'll start off with that water bending thing, and they even pointed out, Sokka says, "Where'd you learn to do that?" And then she said, "I just sort of always knew."
I sort of always knew.
That's pretty stupid.
That's a bad plot point. I mean, I think the idea of her being a lot of pain and her dunking her hands in, I think that's fine if that's how she discovers it. But I think just her owning up to it and being I didn't realize that I had this.
Yeah,
power,
I was okay with it until then.
But in I finally discovered it about myself in a time of need, which I think is fine.
But that's not what she says. She says, "I think I always knew." Which is and then even Sokka says, "Okay, well, why didn't you use it before?" And it's yeah, okay, if you thought you always knew, then this is obviously something that should have been brought up earlier.
Yeah, it was a bad ending.
And I think going on with that, I think when Aang does sort of the fire and hurts her, we talked about this when we were watching, and I mean, you see her later, her hands are kind of red, but I think they could have given her some torn clothes or some singed hair, so maybe burn marks on her face.
Yeah.
The more shocking you make that he hurt her, the more impactful it is that he has to step away and be I need to be careful with how I do this. I need to be more patient, I guess, which I have some stuff to say about that as well.
Yeah, she, it was just her, her normal...
Yeah, and she kind of just started crying.
And it was just, her crying and, crunched up. But, if there was even just a little bit of, charred clothing...
it would have helped a lot. Because it's awkward kind of just seeing it. It's she doesn't look like she's hurt at all.
No.
And I get that they want to tone down the violence a bit, I guess, for children. But, again, it makes it more... It hits a higher note when you have that. And I also think it's kind of strange how Sokka immediately turns at Aang and he's "You did this." And he gets angry. And it's just like that Bato the Water Tribe episode where... I get the characters need to have squabbles, but obviously, these three are not going to have any sort of big fight or being sort of mad at each other moments. So you're just sort of wasting our time with that, I think.
I think it could have been just dude, what happened? What'd you do? But not him tackling him and fighting.
And
him.
It kind of could have been even more impactful if it was more Aang. Instead of Aang, someone telling Aang, "You did something wrong, you did this bad."
Yeah.
It's a bigger self-discovery and growth thing if he realizes it himself.
Yes.
Which he kind of does, but it could have just been that where he thinks, I did this. I mean, it could have been the very stereotypical, him looking at his hands, oh.
Well, and it could have been, Sokka coming over and being what happened to her? And then he could, have that, wide eyes and,
I think they're trying to push the whole Sokka is very protective of Katara, but we know that, we get that, so you don't need to push it that hard when it doesn't feel natural.
Sure.
We're aware that he cares about his sister and that it's very important to him.
Yeah. I like Zhang.
Zhang, I think is what it was.
Yeah, I liked him as a character. I thought he was cool and a unique addition to the world. It's not really somebody we had seen before, ex-firebender who is a master, but
and we really needed firebending characters that weren't villains at this point.
Yeah,
we needed to see a firebender town. We needed to see that because we've seen Earth, we've seen air, we've seen water, but but because I don't think we really get into firebending more until like late season 2, season 3.
Yeah.
So it's important that they sort of remind us this exists. They're still a group of people.
They're not all evil.
But I think they had this really nice moment when they were in the firebending town, and they showed the Fire Lord sort of attacking a guy, and all the kids were like, yay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of like a good, like, okay, because they're going to tackle this later, but there's sort of a big message with propaganda.
Yeah.
And dictators and stuff like that, and how you're sort of brainwashing children with that sort of thing. And there's a little inkling of that, which I didn't remember from watching it before, but it's a nice touch because we're going to get into it more.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, for that society, it's been 100 years. Their kids would have been growing up in an indoctrinated society. Yeah. But I think the show also paints them as just, like, normal enough, where it's like, okay, once this is all over, like, obviously we can't destroy every single firebender.
And it shows they're not bad people, yeah. And it goes back to this whole thing with, I always compare things to Harry Potter because it's the easiest thing to do with David, but it sort of goes back to when Harry Potter has moments, not enough, but has a few where they sort of humanize the Slytherins, because it's so built up that they're the bad guys, they're evil, they're naughty.
Yeah.
So it's important to remind you that the majority of them are like everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. It also, like, deals with the problem of, like, well, you're just grouping an entire group of people together for evil purposes just for a plot point. But, like, it's more realistic this way.
We kind of worked our way backwards on this, but the only other big complaint I have in the episode is I really don't like the moment where the guy is doing a magic trick with fire and Aang jumps in to sort of save Katara.
Even though we know he's not going to.
We know it's a magic trick. We know she's not in really any danger. And it just feels like really, really foolish on Aang's part. And again, I'm trying to say Aang will do anything to help his friends. It is, but it feels so... I feel like they could have had a better reveal for him being the airbender.
Or it could have been like they didn't reveal that it was a magic trick until after it was over. Like, it was just some random guy grabbing her in a crowd.
But they made it abundantly clear that he's a magician. He's doing a trick. It's part of a set.
Yeah.
And that part doesn't work well for me.
No. They could have molded it some way to been like, Katara just got randomly grabbed by this guy in the crowd. He started attacking her. All the fire people thought it was funny. And then Aang could be like, well, I gotta save her. But it turns out that he's, like, actually a magician. And they're like... And it could have just been, like, him saying, like, when he said, like, are you trying to upstage me or something?
Yeah.
And then, like, we could have been like, oh, crap, this is a magic show.
Yeah, that would have been a great reveal.
That would have been much better and felt more realistic to the setting.
And obviously, me and David aren't TV writers.
No.
But I think an important part of critique is sort of saying, and again, it feels kind of pretentious, but this is what you could have done, this is maybe what I would have done. And obviously it might not be better or worse, it's just looking at it a different way.
And it has to be done in the right way. Mm-hmm. Like, obviously everything would still have to somehow fit into the narrative well for us to be able to say that. And obviously, like, there's timing and all that stuff that has to be thought of. But I just feel like there's small, like you said, some small things where they can just adjust the order of the scene or, like, kind of tinker with it a little more just to make it a little better.
I mean, the important thing I can tell you is there's a lot to talk about in this episode. This is already going to be longer than some of our other ones.
Yeah.
Which tells you that at least is... I mean, even the worst episodes are ones where you can't. It's just like, I didn't like that. That was...
Well, and it's just like, you can easily skip over these.
But if you look at a grand scale, this is a good episode. It's a good firebending one. It's got good characters. But when you start to dissect some of the smaller plot points they use to move this... And again, that's another thing we're talking about, is we're not always looking at it in context of the whole show. Part of the On the Couch with David and Travis thesis is to look at things on an episode-by-episode nature. I think if you look at it on what happens in the 22 minutes we just took in, there are a lot of flaws that hurt the episode.
But overall, it's still a good episode. And it's not one you can skip. Even though I said...
I would give it like a 6.5, 7 out of 10, like a meh.
It's like a one that you can maybe...
Well, you should watch it, absolutely.
You can maybe, like, crochet while you're watching or something.
Well, it's not boring, I don't think. I don't think it's never unengaging.
No.
It's just they make mistakes, I think.
Yeah.
With it. And again, you can see is that's part of... It's the first season. They know they have so much they have to do, and it's a big bundle. It's a big rush. It's complicated, but that's what you're looking at.
Cool. All right. We'll see you next time.
On, what's next time? Episode 17. We don't have it up right now, so I can't say, but...
Yeah. Episode 17 is coming up next. And we're almost done with the season, so that's exciting. 4 more.
It's also actually even more exciting if we could talk a little bit more. The people are actually watching the show, it seems, and commenting, and they like it, which is...
that has not happened to us before. Like, this is an achievement.
Things are moving a little bit forward, which is very exciting, particularly, and I'm glad we decided to do this. We're going to keep going on with Avatar. We're going to do a few more shows, but we're really happy that people are watching
Yeah,
this.
so thank you.